Good evening. Thank you for joining us here on SportsZone. We have a special show for you here today as we get to talk all things NBA, from rookies to trades to all that good stuff. But first, we're going to get into the top trades of the offseason, and here to talk about those trades with me is Jose Moreno and London Stewart. Guys, a lot of big trades happening. You've got Russell Westbrook now with the Nuggets. You've got Karl Anthony Towns with the Knicks. London, I'm going to start with you. What is your favorite trade of the offseason?
My favorite trade of the offseason is actually Josh Giddey to the Bulls and Alex Caruso to the Thunder, actually. My elaboration on that is the Thunder are receiving a defensive presence over there. We see that specifically in their time in the postseason, they struggle defensively. They have great scorers such as Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Williams as well. And then Josh Giddey, he played tremendously during the Olympics as well. So the Bulls are receiving another 6'8" guard that they can fill in to help Zach LaVine.
Yeah, I agree with Caruso going to the Thunder is a good trade, but I don't really understand why in the world the Bulls wanted Josh Giddey.
Well, I actually kind of like London's take here. I mean, this is a team, these two teams need to go younger and older.
Right.
The Thunder are a very young team, and they need a vet presence, a guy who's a lot more humble than the rest of these guys. They're all superstars.
Right.
You get a guy like Caruso. And we got to remember, Josh Giddey did something last year that a lot of teams would not want on their team, and the Chicago Bulls want to go younger. Their stars are aging. They need to get another guard to kind of replace the the load that Lonzo has. He is coming in this year, and it's going to be pretty hard to kind of get back to Lonzo's 10 points a game again.
Right.
But seriously, I kind of agree with London here, but I do see your point. I do think Giddey's a lot younger, but he does lack a lot of the fundamentals that Caruso has.
Right.
Big time.
I think for the Bulls, I think on one side you have, you're getting rid of your veteran presence. I get that because you may be going into your rebuilding, things like that. I just don't think Josh Giddey is the young talent that you want to surround your team by. I know he's a good player. I respect his game. But I just don't get it from the Bulls' perspective.
I think he's a solid role player.
Yeah.
I think he's a really solid role player. Like, I mean, to get not starting minutes, but to get minutes on that, on that team with the Thunder, where I think almost everyone that's starting five is an all-star caliber player.
Right.
You have to have talent, and I do think Giddey had that talent his freshman, sophomore year. But this past year, he kind of dipped in his efficiency a huge, But I don't know. Caruso, he's a great player, but he's getting older. And if you're the Bulls, you want to start focusing more on youth, start focusing more on role players that can be here 4 years rather than 2 years.
Right.
And I feel like that's why they really made that trade.
And also, Josh Giddey coming in, having guys who are in the starting five already that are all-star caliber, he's taking that backseat role because, like you said, he's a great role player. So in the coming years, him learning from guys like Zach LaVine, for instance, he can potentially the Thunder, the Bulls are thinking ahead, potentially with guys getting older, you're going to have to rebuild and look for the future eventually. And I like it. You made a great point with Alex Caruso coming in and humbling those young guys. They have some great talent over there, but also they're lacking defense. But you need to truly contend in the NBA Finals. You're going to play both sides of the basketball. So Alex Caruso brings, two ways, and he also brings that sense of maturity in basketball as well.
Alex Caruso in general is just a fan favorite. Is he the most talented guy out there? No, but is he gonna? Yeah, is he gonna improve whatever team he's on just from a morality standpoint?
Exactly.
Yeah. Jose, what's your number one trade?
My number one best trade, I gotta go Cat to the Knicks.
Okay.
I think.
I think this is the biggest.
This
trade
is the biggest trade. It was when I saw the block, I was like, I guess it's just the Cat block. But for the Knicks team that had long been lacking superstars, have been looking for their number one guy and just couldn't really find it. And Darius Garland comes around. They're geniuses for pulling this trade off. They're geniuses. And the entire summer, I had this guy. I followed the Knicks subreddit. I'm not even a Knicks fan, but there's this one news guy who's like saying, "Cat will go to the Knicks. Cat will go to the Knicks," and the entire fan base was laughing at him. Like, no, he won't. No, he won't. And he brought up really good points. I mean, Minnesota had to give up Cat. Anthony Edwards or
Gobert.
Apologies, I can't believe I forgot that man's name. But because of the cap situation, starting this week, the cap basically goes in, and the luxury tax they would have had to pay would have been humongous. Now, losing Dante DiVincenzo to me is actually a pretty big loss. And that, again, the Villanova Knicks was a fun team in the offseason, and he's a great role player as well. And I don't think you're getting anything big out of Cat. You're going to get maybe 3-4 years out of him. You just gave up a role player for 5 years. And a #1 pick, potentially
Yeah.
a #1 overall pick.
I think for the Knicks, I think this was almost an all-in decision.
Yes.
Because this wasn't the first time they had eyes on Cat either. You know, they've been looking at him for about a decade or so. I think it's a really good trade just looking at the comparing him to Julius Randle. I think Julius Randle and Cat play a similar position, but I think in that position, Cat offers more.
And I feel like you said, Cat offers more. He brings more of a spread out offense. The Knicks are
Right.
looking to, run that fast place, run and gun type of offense.
Yes.
And you're bringing in Cat and replacing him, instead of taking Julius Randle out and putting in Cat, that's a great addition to the team as well. They're having Michael Bridges, Jalen Brunson,
Yes.
guys like that. So
Yeah.
they're able to spread the floor, 5 out now and, get the ball up the court
Right.
faster now. And they're playing at a faster pace now.
I agree. Cat's like the perfect center for Thibodeau's
Exactly.
offense.
Yes,
I think he's
exactly.
the perfect fast-paced guy who's like he's a 5, but he plays like a 3.
Yes.
That's something that I think Thibodeau will play with like a new toy on Christmas. He's gonna love it, man.
And
Yeah.
he's also a bigger body that can come in and grab those rebounds. They have
yeah.
more smaller guards and more smaller forwards,
Yes.
but he's a bigger body that can stretch the floor out as well as go down and grab a rebound.
I
Right.
did notice the Knicks actually had a lot of size additions this year.
Oh,
Actually,
yeah.
My other best pit trade was Michael Bridges. To the
I'm
Knicks.
so glad you got into
Yeah.
that because if you weren't going to get into that, I was going to get into that. Not only did I think that was a great trade for the Knicks, Bridges, Cat, and Brunson, I think they're going to be a big 3 on the court, but also the Nets who need to rebuild really bad. This trade involved, I believe, 7 in total picks, 4 unprotected, 3 protected picks. So I think for the Nets, it was a good decision to get rid of Bridges.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it's great for New York to finally give up all this trade capital. They really should have used it for themselves, but they're in a win now mentality. I get that. It's New York. They've been longing for a title again since like 1971.
Ewing.
It's Patrick Ewing. They haven't made the finals since the Ewing. You're right. But it's they're going win now. But I look at that trade, right? I think the Nets might really use those picks for something like how Boston was those couple of years after the Pearson Garnett trade, where Ainge was looking as a genius for just drafting all these players. I mean,
Sometimes you got to play the long game, and I
Jason-
feel like that's what
yeah.
the Nets did with this trade.
I agree because Jason Tatum came out of that trade.
Yeah.
Jason Tatum, you never know you could get. You never know you could get with the
Even with the Knicks acquiring those trades, those are valuable trades that they can potentially trade for guys that are playing right now and build around them because they're looking forward, they're rebuilding. Losing guys like Kevin Durant and James Harden in previous years, they're really looking forward to rebuilding the Knicks up and the Nets and making them into a team that's going to turn some heads in
Right.
the Eastern Conference.
And one thing that we've seen, just let's talk about OKC and their youth. That wasn't necessarily a bad thing. Last year, I think their average age was 23, something like that.
Yeah.
And they were top of the Western Conference. So I think, you look at the 2028 season, the Nets could be just like the OKC.
Exactly.
Jose, I want to get your opinion. What is your least favorite trade of the offseason?
As a Rockets fan, I'm going to say A.J. Griffin to the Rockets. Great. Let's give up a pick for a guy who doesn't even play for us because he wants to go meet Jesus. Great move, Maury, if he even is there anymore. I hate this trade.
Yeah.
I hated it. I was actually excited for A.J. Griffin. I really thought we could rebuild this kid into a consistent, useful asset. And he left the team for one of the weirdest reasons a player has ever retired, because he found Jesus. You can still find Jesus and play basketball. You still can. You didn't even give up your contract. You're still getting paid. If you really cared about Jesus, you would have given up your contract to go live the quiet life. This might be my most controversial rant, to be honest. I love God, but I'm not going to give up a freaking $30 million a year job to go scam people with some school online.
Right.
I can't believe that. But hey, respect to him. May he find peace in his life and all that. But come on, dude. Why'd you screw me over like that?
Sad Rockets fan right here. London, your worst trade?
That was a good thing as well. A.J. Griffin really made something that was beneficial and sacrificial for him, But my worst trade was the trade between the Raptors and the Kings, with losing guys like Davion Mitchell and Jamal Shead, sending those two younger guys to the Raptors, and then the Kings acquiring Jalen McDaniels. The Kings are losing 2 great young point guards that bring the defensive presence for just one guy as well. And then also for Jalen McDaniels, that's just one guy, but the Raptors they're rebuilding. I feel like this was a bad pick because the Raptors predominantly won in that, and the Kings lost, like, they lost everything, basically. Like,
Yeah, I definitely agree that the Raptors season will go. Honestly, I don't know how the Raptors will do. They are one of those teams where it's hit or miss, but when we come back, we'll look at some pretenders or contenders, so stay with us.
I'm so tired. I feel ugly. I'm not okay. I didn't know UNT had counseling services. Maybe I should check it out. This looks like the place.
What's wrong? Are you stuck in your paper?
Pretty much. I haven't written anything in like an hour.
Why don't you check out the Writing Center at UNT?
Well, how do I meet up with him?
All you have to do to make an appointment is visit the Writing Center's website and either call the number or email writingcenter@unt.edu. The appointment is 30 minutes long, and the trained tutors will be able to help with brainstorming, correcting grammar, ensuring clarity, and a wide range of services. They also do walk-in appointments.
That sounds awesome. I'm gonna check him out.
So, when's this paper due?
30 minutes?
For more information, visit the UNT Writing Center's website.
Yeah, it's 6 pages.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm joined by Gabby Pippins and Kenny Johnson as we take a look at teams as a whole and decide if they are pretenders or contenders. Let's start off with the Los Angeles Lakers. Gabby, what are your thoughts?
I know this is going to upset a lot of LeBron lovers out there, a lot of Lakers fans who are loyal for some reason. I haven't really figured it out yet. But they are definitely going to be pretenders. There's so many reasons. We could talk about that for the entire block, really. But Davis and Russell are not going to do it. I mean, they are so inconsistent. They go from 30 points a game to 5 points a game, or they're hurt, have to get wheelchaired off for really minimal injuries. I'm sure you all remember that.
Yeah.
But no, they're just not going to cut it. And your only shooting guard is Austin Reeves, who's great. You know, we love him, but he can't do it all. And LeBron is getting old, literally. He's the oldest player in the NBA right now. He's older than a lot of the head coaches, and he just doesn't have the stamina anymore. And Bronny? He's there because his dad's on the team. I mean, that's really straightforward. If anyone, get Bryce. Get Bryce on
for
there.
real.
So they're just not doing anything this season.
Kenny, what's your take on the Lakers?
I have to agree. The Lakers are pretenders. I love LeBron. I have to give him respect. He is our GOAT. With AD,
Okay.
oh, we can talk about that later. With AD, I love AD, but do we believe AD is going to be healthy a whole season?
Absolutely not.
Then, you know, of course, you got Austin Reeves, and you got maybe a so-so D'Angelo Russell. But, I mean, think about also this, too. We have J.J. Redick, a rookie head coach, has never had any coaching experience, is going to lead a team with LeBron, a.k.a. Le GM. Like, I don't see that happening. And then also you have Bron and you have, you know, Dalton Connect. I mean, of course, you know, they have a time to develop. Will they have time to develop? I don't think they will. So I'm just really not high on them. Then also the West is stacked.
Yeah.
So, like, I have no faith in the Lakers.
Right, and I agree with them, so I'm not going to get into all my points. Gabby, you guys both rattled off a lot. Let's talk about the Denver Nuggets. Kenny, what's your take on that?
I know a lot of people are going to disagree. I'm not high on the Nuggets.
Okay.
With the Nuggets, of course, they have their big three. They have Jokic. They have Murray. Of course, they have Michael Porter. Like, I'm really high on them. But outside of their, you know, their top six, of course, they got Christian Braun. I mean, they haven't really addressed, you know, the backup center position.
Right.
I mean, is Dario Saric going to help?
Right.
No. Then, you know, also on their bench, they have an old Russ. Is Russ going to do anything? So, and then, too, I know people are not going to believe this, too. I don't even think they're the best team in their division. I personally think the Thunder and maybe even the Wolves are better.
Ooh, Gabby, before you get into your point, I can tell you think they're a contender, so I'm gonna make my case. I agree with Kenny here. I think they make it to playoffs. I think they have no problem making it into playoffs. But because the West is so stacked, I don't see them making it past the Western Conference Finals. I really don't. I think you have a Jokic who loves the game of basketball, is good at it, but he doesn't have that. And it's weird to say playoff factor, but given their trades in the offseason, they got rid of Caldwell Pope, who is a big player for the team. They're going to have to find someone to fill his shoes, and I don't think they have it. Gabby, what's your take?
Well, first of all, I'm trying to figure out if I'm still on planet Earth right now. Second of all, they are definitely contenders. In fact, it's going to be us as the Mavs right there with the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals. I can already see it laid out right now. I mean, you're talking about the team that has the best player in the NBA on it right now. How do you not succeed with Jokic? I mean, dude's got the MVP. He also works so well with Murray. I mean, they have this like telepathy that I think we talked about last semester, where they're just able to give each other a look or a gesture and just literally explode.
Yeah.
But no, I see them as contenders. I see them in the conference finals right there with the Mavs. I say that we're going to beat them, but I still see them making it. I mean, it'd be difficult for them not to.
My only problem with the logic of, oh, well, they have this player, they'll be fine, is I think they'll be fine because the players that surround Jokic are also good. But then you could look at the Lakers and you could say, oh, they have LeBron, they're automatic contenders.
That's not the same, though.
In this age of basketball where the West is so stacked, you've got OKC who can do damage this year. I just don't see the Nuggets being that team. One interesting team that I do want to get into in Texas, not the Mavs, the San Antonio Spurs. Gabby, your thoughts?
They're not going anywhere. I mean, I hate to say that about a fellow Texas team, but it's just going to be tough. I mean, you've got Wemby, you've got Chris Paul, who's way past his prime. I mean, them just kind of throwing him a bone, hey, come to the Spurs. I don't really think that that's going to translate well. I also don't really see the two of them playing well together. I don't know. I just feel like their dynamics are kind of off. I don't know. That's just a personal thing for me. And you've got Jeremy Sochan, but he can't do it all. They can't do it all. I mean, I think it's safe to say that they're definitely in their reconstruction period right now where they're trying to build a team around Wemby, and I think they'll get there in a couple seasons. We could definitely see them as contenders, but they need some time, they need some more depth, and way more players besides those three.
And Kenny, your thoughts on the Spurs?
Same thing with pretenders. I really love Coach Pop. Pop is a legend. We can all say Pop is a legend, and I love Wemby
definitely
too.
a Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
But just like Gabby said, I mean, do we really trust the old man, Chris Paul? Like, let's all be honest. I mean, he's literally one jog away from tearing his hamstring again.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still a very young team with a lot of undeveloped talent. Like, you have Vassell, you have Johnson, and I mean, like I said earlier, the West is stacked.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really hard for them, to compete with that. I mean, like I said, they're not even the best team in Texas.
Right.
So, I mean, I just really don't have any faith in the Spurs.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. Last season, this team was 22-60, finished 14 in the West. The way the West is stacked right now, they will have to win a minimum of probably 45 games to even be the 11th or the 10th ranked team. That's how stacked the West is, where, those top, the number one team is going to be the number one team. But 2 through 10, some of those teams last year were one win away from being a higher seed than the other team.
Yeah.
And then lastly, guys, let's talk about the Indiana Pacers. This team is very interesting. Feel like they sort of stunned certain teams last year. Gabby, what do you think?
Yeah, I definitely see them as contenders. It's going to be a little difficult, especially with Kat being on the team now, so they're going to need more time to kind of gel, but I see it.
And Kenny, your thoughts?
With the Indiana Pacers, I think they're contenders if they play their cards right. Because I'm very high on Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam, and with the offseason, this duo has more time to gel. And I love Coach Rick Carlisle. And I'm really high on guys like Miles Turner, Aaron Naismith, and Bruce Brown. So I think they can do it.
Yeah, I am very high on the Indiana Pacers too. I think they'll be contenders, But since we're talking about the best of the best teams, when we come back, we'll take a look at the best of the best players.
Did you know you have access to video equipment like DVDs, video games, and cameras? That's right, you do. Come on down to Chilton Library and fulfill your media dream. Located on the bottom floor next to the student sculpture. Hope to see you there soon.
Hey girl, you know you look good. I like the way you move and groove. I'm not sure.
Good evening, my name is Amanda Hasbell and I'm joining you here today in the Union Parking Garage. Today we're going to be going over how to drive safely in the parking garage. Let's go see. Oh my god, this girl just got hit by a car. Let's go see what happened. Ma'am, are you okay? Are you okay?
Did you see that lady hit me with a car?
Yeah, we did. I got it all on video.
Oh my god.
Let's go over here and talk about how we can prevent that.
Yeah, not the hospital.
Well, right now we're going to ask you a couple questions on how we can drive safely in the parking lot. What are ways that we can be aware of our surroundings?
Oh, we can look both ways.
Jenna, also, how about putting the distractions away?
Yes, just like our phones, turning our music down, and also not focusing on our passengers.
Where can you get information on how to get a parking pass?
Transportation.unt.edu.
If you park in a garage, make sure you pay on the app or look for further instructions on how you should pay.
And remember, no pass, no park. Let's all try to keep our Mean Green community safe.
Remember, we're all in this together.
Drive safe.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Mackenzie Freeman. I'm joined here by Isaiah Ortiz and Griffin Flack as we take a look at the MVP race. Obviously, it's way too early, but the current odds stand Nikola Jokic, then Luka Doncic, then Shea, then Embiid, then Giannis. I mean, Isaiah, who's in your top 5 for the MVP race?
Yeah, so I don't really think I have the typical top 5 here. I like to shake things up a little bit, so I picked Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. That's my number 1. I think he should be considered the front runner for the MVP. But I actually have Jason Tatum at 2, Luka at 3, and then Giannis and Jokic at 5.
And Griffin, your top 5?
I also agree. I think Shea has a great chance of winning the MVP this year. I got Shea, then Jokic, and then Luka, then Giannis, and then Embiid. I just think the Thunder are just, I have them going to the finals. I have them winning the finals, and I think Shea will cement himself as the best player in the league after this season.
Yeah, it's definitely unanimous between the 3 of us. My top 5, I've got Shea. I think we saw what he did last year. We'll see his performance this year. I think he'll put up similar numbers. Then I've got Luka Doncic. I mean, he's runner-up every year. Yeah. I'm just going to cement him in my number 2 slot right now. Then I have Nikola Jokic as number 3. Then I have Giannis at number 4. And I feel like we forgot about this one, but I put Victor Wembanyama at number 5.
Now,
Rookie of the year. And I think, you know, he may not perform how we think he will. Given the team that he's on, a lot of these other candidates have a better team surrounding them. But I think it's fair to slide him in there just because of the generational talent he has.
Yeah, and I just want to say one thing. When someone wins the MVP, their team is always towards the top of the standings, and I just don't think Victor has the team to be able to be in that conversation. No, he's very talented. He doesn't have the team.
I want to ask you something real quick. Let's say they go, last season, they were 22-60. If they jump up to a 50-win team, do you think Wemby odds for MVP goes up?
I mean, they obviously go up. I mean, he'll be an All-NBA player this season. I'm very confident in that. He doesn't have a weakness in his game. He's 7'5". He can shoot the 3. He can dribble. Plays elite defense. So yeah, the only thing is he's 20 years old. Mm-hmm. That'll make him the youngest MVP ever. So I don't think he would get it over the guys like Shea, Luka, or Jokic.
Isaiah, your thoughts on Wemby?
Yeah, I mean, obviously still a great player, generational talent like we've been talking about, but there just aren't a lot of guys who make a second-year jump to MVP level. Like, top 5, I think that's a little too far-fetched in my opinion. I do think we need to temper expectations just a little bit here, but obviously still a great player. May get in top 10 conversations if he does get to the Spurs, even the play-in. I think he'll be in there with the media hype, but patience might be the thing here we do for Wemby.
Yeah, I want to get into your number 2, Jason Tatum. he didn't even win Finals MVP on the team that he was on. There's so much talent on that roster. Why do you have him at number 2?
Yeah, I do have him at number 2 because this year is going to be the first full year since his rookie year where he goes into the league without any real expectations. Think about after his rookie year in the conference finals, he takes LeBron to 7, he dunks on LeBron in the conference finals, and the expectations are through the roof. Now it's, what else do you have for me? Well, now he's going into his 7th year. He's won a championship. He has a gold medal with Team USA. He has no pressure on him. And speaking of Team USA again, think about how they disrespected him. Think about how he was barely even playing, wasn't even in the rotation. 2 of his own teammates who I think we can agree aren't better than Jason Tatum were getting playing time over him. So I think you take the disrespect, you take the pressure that's off of him this season, you take the fact that the Celtics are so probably the favorites to come out of the East. I think a lot of that really adds up for Jason Tatum to be a real candidate this year.
And as far as Jason Tatum goes, obviously, you know, those top 7 players really could make their way in there and be the MVP. What do you think Jason Tatum has to do to get the MVP?
Well, I think, one, he has to stand out, obviously. There's been a real, a guard for the last couple of years, Jokic, Embiid, Giannis. That's kind of the big 3 we've been really examining for the award for the past 3 years. What are you going to do that's going to stand out? How are you going to come this year? Are you going to score more? Are you going to get your assist numbers up? Are you going to be more of a playmaker in that aspect? Do things that stand out. Dominate the league from that standpoint. Don't be passive. Have the Mamba mentality like we've kind of memed him for, right? we want to see you be a dominant player, and that's me as a Heat fan. I'm a Celtics hater by blood.
Yeah.
But I can't deny the fact that he could come as a different player this year.
Griffin, your takes on Jason Tatum?
I'm not a big Jason Tatum believer. I don't even think he's the best player on his team. I think that's Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown outperforms him in the playoffs. I just think he provides more to that team. Jason Tatum doesn't, this kind of goes to show how great the Celtics are, but Jason Tatum doesn't really need to carry that team for them to blow out teams, really. But I just think Jaylen Brown has proven, especially in the playoffs, that he's just more efficient and just an overall better player, in my opinion, than Jason Tatum. So I don't really have Jason Tatum close to my top 5 in the MVP conversation.
That's where I disagree. Jason Tatum gets way more attention than a Jaylen Brown does. Jason Tatum is kind of forced to be the de facto point guard. He makes all the decisions on the court. So while his scoring numbers might not be there, he didn't win Finals MVP, and he wasn't as efficient because he couldn't get into a rhythm because he's really being the distributor on the court. And Jaylen Brown only averaged 22 points per game. So how much better can he be in that aspect? You know what I mean?
Well, here's the thing too: is we're talking about Jason Tatum. Okay, so where do we put Jaylen Brown in the MVP race? Is he a top 10 candidate? Is he top 20 candidate? Where would you put him?
Not in there, in my opinion. I don't have him in there, but he's still a good player. Just second options don't usually get that kind of attention in the league, though. I do think Team USA, like Jason Tatum, we could see a different Jaylen Brown coming in here because, unlike Jason Tatum, he didn't even make the team.
Yeah, Jaylen Brown's not in my 20 to 10 range even. But, I don't have any I just think the Celtics are such a balanced and just well put together team. I don't really have anyone up that list.
Yeah, it's hard to pick a player on the team
be MVP.
I see what you're saying with that.
There's so many guys that can beat you on that team.
Yeah.
It's just hard for any of them to be up there.
Right, and I want to get into Luka Doncic because obviously he's the hometown player, Dallas Mavericks. He's been in the league for 7 years. We were talking about it earlier. He's always runner-up. What can Doncic do to pass that hump and get the MVP, Isaiah?
Well, for me, I compare Luka a lot to James Harden in this regard. I don't think the media is going to respect Luka enough until the Mavericks prove they are the best team in the league. You think back to when James Harden won his MVP. The Rockets won 64 games, and that wasn't even close to his best season. His best season came the year later. 35 points per game, didn't even win the MVP. Luka does something very similar last year, and he's third in the MVP race. I thought he should have won last year, but the media is always going to have a different criteria when it comes to Luka.
Right. And Griffin?
Yeah, I actually think making the finals last year helps Luka in his MVP case because he has that narrative that he can get that far. His popularity has grown. He's a likable guy. Everyone seems to like Luka, whether some people disagree with his play style, but he's a funny guy. People love Luka. He's putting up historic numbers. Last season he put up 30-some points. He almost averaged a triple-double, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Luka is just such a talented player. It's his award to lose, pretty much, in my opinion.
Right, and it's definitely way too early to pick an MVP just because the season really hasn't even started yet. But when we come back, we'll take a look at some new kids on the block as we take a look at some rookies.
What does Talents do?
So I am the Vice President of External Relations for Talents. That means that I basically oversee all the external committees. Our external committees entail our Model A, it's a Mean Green Machine. So they bring it to football games especially, so every game it's kind of there, every home game. The Model A is like a symbol of UNC pride, and it's a big tradition that we are so lucky to uphold and maintain. When people look at it, they see it, and they're like, oh, that's the Mean Green Machine. There must be a game today or something to ramp up school spirit for basketball, softball, volleyball, any of those things. We have amazing teams, so we just want to show school spirit for them. Bonfire Committee, which is in charge of putting together the bonfire every year for homecoming. It's kind of just a whole semester-long process up until Build Week that we have to put together and oversee and make sure safety regulations are followed and risk management is taken care of. Cannon Crew, which oversees and takes care of the cannon. They fire it at games, they take it to special occasions.
I'm here to rescue you.
Oh, my prince.
No so fast.
This story is going to be awesome.
The USA is going to be okay.
Good evening, welcome back to Sports Zone. We're gonna take a look at some rookies here. Here to talk about the rookies with me is Nash Lowry and Oscar Chavez. Guys, we've got a list of 6 rookies here, starting with Zachary Rusache, Alex Sarr, Reed Shepard, Zach Edey, Don Connect, and Matas Puzelis. Nash, how do you think these rookies are gonna perform? What's your ladder 1 through 6?
So if I was gonna look at this rookie class in its entirety, right, Oscar? If I was going to look at it from its entirety, honestly, I think it's more of a role player draft. I think that there's going to be more people who are going to play more roles in this upcoming season rather than a lot of guys who are going to show out. As it stands, however, my 1 through 6. Number 1, Matas Puzelis, pick 11 of the draft. Number 2, Zachary Richasse is my second option. He's picked number 1. Number 3 is Zach Edey. He was picked number 9, I believe. I think he's going to do the third best. Going up next, I got Reed Shepard. After that, I have Alex Sarr. And all the way at the bottom, I have Dalton Connect. But if I want to start at the beginning, I want to go to Matas Puzelis. He's a defensive playmaker who played for the G League Ignite, and he comes from Eurobasket, right? So that's where Nikola Jokic grew up playing basketball. So he comes from a really good program, and playing in the G League, I think he's going to be the second great G League player to come out of the G League, Jalen Green being the first one.
I think he just has more experience than most of the guys, not only that we listed, but most of the rookies coming in. I mean, obviously, you've got Zach Edey on the list too, who has played NCAA college basketball,
a lot of games,
played a lot of games. But I think Puzelis is probably the best prepared out of this draft for the NBA.
Yeah, he shows a lot of flashes. Like, he gives you a little bit of everything. I call him little baby KD. You know, he can go drive to the paint very aggressively, and he could pull up with the mid range, get shifty. I do have Monte Puzelis as my number 1 as well. Wrapping that up, I have Zach Edey number 2, Zachary Risaje number 3, Reed Shepard 4, Dalton Connect 5, and Alex Sarr 6. Alex Sarr 6 because he's on the Wizards. But I want to hear more about like Zach Edey. What are y'all thoughts on him?
I think Zach Edey, his rookie season is going to go one of 2 ways. And you said it. This is a role-playing draft.
Absolutely.
I think Zach Edey, because this is a role-playing draft, he won't put up Rookie of the Year numbers. I have him at number 5 out of the 6 that we're talking about.
Okay.
I also think when he was in college, he got a lot of soft calls. So in the NBA, it really depends on the reffing situation and if their calls will be soft. So he'll either do great or he'll be a role player and just rack up rebounds.
And to counter that soft, his debut against Walker Kessler and the Utah Jazz was anything but soft. He was completely dominating those boys. And he didn't have like the most experience, the most games, the most film out in preseason or summer league, However, when he did play, he played very aggressive. His lateral quickness was very underrated, as people said he was like Zubac coming out of the draft. I don't think so. But yeah.
So he had 16 points and 15 rebounds, which is really, really good whenever you're going up against a player like Walker Kessler. Really, it's really tough to do that as a rookie. However, in this Grizzlies offense, it is not going to work.
Yeah.
Personally, for me, he's too slow. He doesn't have enough
Drew
experience.
Timme part 2?
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah, exactly. He doesn't have enough experience playing with Jaden Ivey because he only had 1 season.
Yeah.
What I want to talk about is that it's really tough for him to play with a high mobile guard like Ja, and he won't be able to be a stone tower in the middle because you have Jaren Jackson. Excuse me, Jaren Jackson's going to go on the outside, so they're going to put Zach Edey in the middle. He's not going to want to do high pick and rolls with John Morant.
And I think Zach Edey, I think he'll still average around 10 to 15 points per game.
That's generous. That's extremely generous.
But
15?
Okay, if he can get 10 rebounds a game, would you say that that's fair? That he'll probably average 10 rebounds a game?
I would say 10 rebounds a game is really realistic, just because he's their own.
I think that's realistic, but also if he has half of those as putbacks, that's 10 points a game right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think he almost has a guaranteed 10 points per game.
And looking at the rookies, he's the only real day one starter. No one here screams out starter. Who
Zachary
Ristichia?
Yeah, he'll start for the Wizards. Who the heck else do they have?
Oh, Alex Sarr. You're talking about?
Are you talking about Sarr
excuse
or
me.
Richase?
Both of them will be starting.
Okay.
So
if we're gonna move on,
there's 3 players out of these that will be starting, guaranteed.
Yeah, my number 2 spot is Richase.
Okay, he's my number 1.
I think, honestly, I think he's going to do really good. There's a huge gap created by John Collins about a year ago in this past season. The Atlanta Hawks gave up John Collins to the Jazz for Rudy Gay and a 2nd-round pick. That was more of a cap space move.
Right.
So there's a lot of points and rebounds that you just gave up for a player of similar size. Not really of similar mentality, I don't think, but similar size. And because he's the number 1 pick and because he meshes well with every team that he's played with in France, the playbook is going to be designed for him to win.
Right, and I know that you're high on Bruce Ellis, and I would have put him higher. He's my number 3, but I put Sarr above him in that number 2 spot because I just think in general he'll get more playing time, he'll get more points, he'll get more rebounds, more assists, and I think he'll blend in really well with the Wizards, which makes his case even better.
Well, I think Buzelis has so many things going for him. There's a scoring gap created by DeMar DeRozan, and now you have Josh Giddey on the Bulls. You have Steven Adams on the Bulls, who's going to take big defensive assignments.
Right.
You have Zach LaVine, who's going to need to make a little bit more, and Lonzo Ball is healthy. So that's so many playmakers that Buzelis is going to have for him. He's my rookie of the year.
I would have to agree. Montez Buzelis is definitely my rookie of the year as well. I just see him going absolutely crazy. At some point, Zach LaVine, Patrick Williams, they're going to get hurt. We just talked about how DeMar DeRozan left a big hole in this Chicago Bulls lineup. He's leaving about 45 minutes on light. Well, Montez goes in. He could come off the bench. He can start, and I believe he's just going to go absolutely crazy being baby KD.
And one of the players I want to get into too, Reed Shepherd. He's on this list for a reason. I have him at number 4.
Okay.
Are we forgetting the summer season he had?
I've
he
also
had a great
got him
summer.
at number 4.
I think 4 is the perfect spot for him. I think he has a little bit more to prove, but I think that summer game, or the summer league and his stats there, 20.3 points, 5.3 assists, and 4.8 boards, I think he'll do just fine.
So those numbers are good. Yeah,
20
points in the summer
league.
It's not the NBA. And from what we were talking about, where do you have him at, Oscar?
So I do have him at number 4 as well. So we all have him number 4.
So
yeah,
if we
I
all
think that's
have,
a fair spot for
if
him
we
there.
all have him at number 4, say for instance we are the Houston coaching squad and we all have Reed Shepherd, the 3rd overall pick at number 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's us basically saying, okay, there's 3 people ahead of this guy. And if we're the coaching staff on Houston, we're thinking the same thing. There are 3 people just on Houston, Jabari Smith and Jalen Green, and whoever else you want to put in front of him. There are already 3 people in front of Reed Shepherd.
Right.
It's just the playbook. The guard room is too crowded. He is more of a forward, but his make or break is going to be on the fast break.
Yep.
And there's too many Here's what I say. There's too much traffic and there's too many agendas on the Rockets that need to be filled so that Reed Shepherd will not be successful.
Right, and I think
Absolutely.
he's not going to get the starting role immediately, but I think he could make the case for sixth man because the Rockets roster, let's face it, not very good. You take out some of those guards, put Reed Shepherd in, give him, 15 minutes of playing time a game. I mean, I think he'll do just fine and blend in with the Rockets.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Like y'all are saying, it's that guard and forward room is just way too crowded. You have A-Man, Fred VanVleet, but you're saying he plays more like a forward, so you do have, I think you still have Tari Easton.
Yeah, you have Tari Eason and Amen Thompson. He really plays the same role as Amen Thompson, but with less playmaking. Honestly,
Less
from my
size,
point of
less
view.
defense. But Dalton Connect, interesting, as he was picked way later than anybody else chosen on the list, but he's chosen there for a reason, as he can light it up for the Lakers, provide that juice. But someone that I think is going to be taking minutes is Max Christie. So I don't think he's going to fare out much as much as we think.
I think the case with Dalton Connect, and I have him sixth. Out of the rookies we're talking about, I have him in that last slot because, yes, he was a 17th round pick. Yes, I think he's a good player. But you look at their depth chart, he's on their third string, fourth string. Like, he won't touch minutes.
No.
And if you're
minutes.
if you're not touching minutes, you're not doing anything.
Yeah,
So
I mean, you got to be
he's not
on
gonna
the
be-
hardwood to play, essentially.
Right, exactly.
And with Max Christie as the other guard who's going to be taking all the shots, it's just not going to work out for Dalton Connect.
Yeah, I definitely agree. When we come back, we'll take a look at our top lineups.
Hey Alex, this guy on the internet says he wants to give me money.
That sounds suspicious.
What do you mean?
Typically, strangers who promise you money on the internet have their own best interest in mind. They often use bounce checks, which will disappear shortly after depositing, but not before they've asked for some money in return.
So he doesn't really want to spoil me?
No.
Well, then what should I do?
The best way to handle it is to block and report the suspicious message, or even consult local law enforcement if you've already fallen victim.
So I guess we aren't going to Key West for spring break.
No.
Ugh, a 20-minute walk? I don't want to do this right now.
Don't worry, you can just use Transit.
Transit? What's that?
Transit is a mobile app that provides real-time tracking to connect buses, UNT shuttles, and even A trains. Simply download the app, then tap on the search bar and type where you want to go. In a matter of seconds, you get results for all available routes. And the best part of it is, it's completely free for UNT students.
What are you doing? I'm downloading it right now.
Download Transit today and remember, make life better without a car.
Are you behind on your credit hours? Got more time on your hands this winter? Then you need to sign up for winter sessions. Do not delay, sign up today. Visit registration.unt.edu/winter session for more information or see your advisor.
Welcome back to SportsZone. I'm your host, Mackenzie Freeman, and we're going to get into our dream lineups right now. And no, these aren't the GOATs of each position. These are just simply who we have in our dream lineup, from point guard to a sixth man. And here to talk about their teams with me is Samuel Craig and Nash Lowry.
They made me move seats. I'm over on this side now. I was on the middle, now I'm over on the right.
Yeah, we
Okay,
wanted to
here
put
we go.
Sam in the spotlight here. So Sam, go ahead and get into your dream lineup.
All right, well, I want to preface how I made this team. I made it with the GOAT in mind, LeBron James. Every single
Crazy
player was picked around the GOAT, my sunshine, LeBron James. Specifically, his 2012 campaign, 2012, 2013, which is why you see Dwayne Wade there, because, I mean, oh, man, that duo. Whew. And then Steph Curry, obviously, he can be argued the best point guard of all time, but it's pretty definitive he's the best shooter of all time. So I would say, and we saw them work together on that USA team.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tim Duncan, it was a hard pick between him and Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis has that chemistry with LeBron James. But I had to go Tim Duncan because
I'm glad you went Tim Duncan because
Yeah.
Anthony Davis is nowhere near a dream lineup.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And shout out to all the unks out there like you, Mackenzie, who want
That's
Tim
crazy.
Duncan there.
You put Tim Duncan there.
Just
you are not
huge
too.
shots fired. That was uncalled for.
Sorry, I just,
That was
I know
for.
I know all you old heads love Tim Duncan.
God. Okay.
I mean, that may be true, but
And who was your sixth man?
Allen Iverson.
Okay. Why?
Respect.
Because, I mean, he's a tiny guy, or I shouldn't say tiny, but he's a smaller guy, and I love the way that he moves around. He never really had that, big team around him. I think if we surround him with really good players, ooh, he could be electric.
I mean, I do like Allen Iverson. I like his playmaking skills. He's almost, in my opinion, kind of like a Kyrie Irving, where, situationally he could be a top performer. Nash, get into your starting lineup.
Okay, so here's my starting lineup. And whenever I want to preface about my starting lineup, okay, the whole point of this was to create a team that could go 82-0 and not only beat whoever you want to put up against, but also whoever is on my right. Here is the lineup. Kyrie Irving at the point guard. Joe Dumars at the shooting guard. Kevin Durant at small forward. You got Bill Laimbeer at the 4, Victor Wembanyama at the 5, and 2018 LeBron James as my 6th man. So whenever I break this down, okay, I decided to build my team in bases of duos, starting with Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. They work really well together. We saw their numbers be amazing whenever they weren't playing with James Harden on the Brooklyn Nets. And then the second duo that I want to pick up, Joe Dumars and Bill Laimbeer. For those of you not familiar, 1989 and 1990, the Detroit Pistons went back-to-back, beating the Lakers and beating the Bulls on the way to getting their championship.
And you're hating on my point guard, who I'll get into.
Well, hang on, let me finish.
You hater.
Let me finish. Okay. And for my center position, I wanted to be really particular that I did not pick a center who played against Bill Laimbeer, because you can name any center who played at that time, and they all hated Bill Laimbeer. Patrick Ewing, Hakeem Olajuwon, everybody. Artis Gilmore, like Horace Grant, everybody who played against Bill Laimbeer. So I picked Victor Wembanyama. He's got no ego, and he can play with Bill Laimbeer because he never played against Bill Laimbeer when he played. And here's the part. Here's the part where I'm going to get everybody. LeBron James as my 6th man. Exactly what I just said.
I actually think that's kind of valid.
Okay, everything I just said, you can rotate LeBron in at every single position. The thing about Joe Dumars and Bill Laimbeer is in those Pistons offenses, they really used their small forward. His name was Mark Aguirre. He was the #1 overall pick by the Mavericks in their rookie year in the NBA. So when they used Mark Aguirre in their playbook, he was the primary ball handler.
Right.
And you also had Isaiah Thomas. Kyrie Irving is a great ball handler who will serve like Isaiah Thomas, okay? You've also got LeBron who can step in and be the 1. You got LeBron who can step in and be the 2 because Kyrie and Kevin Durant can play with LeBron.
Right.
You can have LeBron step in and be the 3 because you know Kyrie can play with LeBron.
Right.
And for the reasons that I just said, the small forward is the main playmaker of the offense. He can step in and be the 4 and be the enforcer. He can be Victor Wembanyama and block everybody. Enough said.
Yeah, so
Y'all lose. Y'all
No,
lose.
whoa,
Y'all-
whoa. We haven't even gotten into my team.
Okay.
Let me get into my team. And since y'all both got to preface your teams, my theme, physicality. My team is going to be the most physical team, and that's how they are going to get these wins. Starting with point guard Isaiah Thomas, 1980s, 1990s Pistons. Physical. That's what you think of when you think of the Pistons. So he's a Hall of Famer, 2-time NBA champ, 12-time All-Star. That's why he's there. Then shooting guard Steph Curry. Now, he's like the least physical out of everyone on this team, but he changed the game of basketball. He made the three-point shooting just different, and a lot of kids inspired by him to get into basketball. Small forward, Michael Jordan. This is self-explanatory. Nash, I know you don't agree with the Isaiah Thomas.
But go
Michael
on
Jordan.
about the GOAT. Go on about the GOAT. You're self-proclaimed GOAT, not LeBron.
Then my power forward, I've got Tim Duncan. Again, you picked him, self-explanatory. I'm not elaborating on that because I don't have to because you did it for me. Center, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, also self-explanatory, top 10 player of all time. 6th man, give me Kevin Garnett.
It's a really good physicality pick for the 6th man. That's my favorite part of the list.
That is
really.
a great 6th man. He's not going to step in at the point guard position, but let's say you need to take Isaiah Thomas out. Okay, you can move Steph Curry, and then you just move Michael Jordan up. Boom. Kevin Garnett comes in at the small forward position. I mean, this team, hands down, dream lineup right
Okay,
there.
what do you have to say about that, Sam?
How can it be a dream lineup without the GOAT
You
LeBron
can build a
James?
good. This is a PSA to everyone that is a ball fan. You can build a good dream lineup without LeBron James in that lineup. There are many players who have been able to stop LeBron James defensively. Yes, he's a great player. Some consider him the GOAT. Whatever.
Let's go. Wait,
You
can we
make
go
a
down?
good
Can we
team
go down the
without
list
him.
of people who stopped LeBron in his prime? Kawhi Leonard. Oh, okay, I'm done. So those are the only people who have stopped LeBron in his prime.
We're,
But
we're
anyway,
talking, we're talking teams here, though. I don't think you have to have LeBron James on your team for it to be the best team ever.
so what is the name? What is the name of this block? It's building the best team
No,
that you
dream
can
team.
assemble.
Dream team.
Dream
Dream
team. So
team.
you're hallucinating.
Dream
okay.
lineup.
So whenever I say dream team, the only thing that was on Netflix in 2020 was The Last Dance, and we saw just how much the Bulls hated the Detroit Pistons. We saw just how much it impacted Michael Jordan and Isaiah Thomas in their feud. They
Haters
cannot.
to lovers art. Let it be known.
Okay.
Haters to lovers.
So haters to
They will
lovers.
be so physical in practice that no one else is going to be able to stop those two because they're competing with each other every day in practice.
I really do understand, and this did happen. You saw it on the Dream Team. Their practices went absolutely insane.
Exactly.
When Magic Johnson was the captain and with MJ was the captain. But Magic Johnson isn't in your team. It's Isaiah Thomas on your team, and you can't have enemies to lovers if you aren't going to play on the same floor at the same time as this guy. It
But
has
they
to
would,
be a team.
Because I'd be the coach and I'd put them on the court at the same time, which is why they're both in my lineup.
Oh, my point is debunked. No, all of those talking points. Ugh. Okay, so now, okay, Sam, my goodness. Okay, so Allen Iverson at your six man, where would you sub him in for? Would you rather have him play with D Wade or would you rather have him play with Steph?
That's a good question. I think I'd rather him play with Steph. I'd rather play with Steph.
I have a question about Allen Iverson because I just want to know your logic on this pick because when I went into six-man, I was thinking, one, I want a physical player because that was the theme of my team. Two, I want someone that can play 4 out of the 5 positions, which I believe Kevin Garnett could. And if he can't, well then, like I was saying earlier, if Isaiah Thomas needs a break, okay, Steph Curry, you go in and you move to the point guard.
And I have
Allen
a player.
Iverson isn't that player.
I have a player that can play 5 out of the 5 positions in prime LeBron James. So go on about Allen
That is
Iverson
true.
and how he can play the 4.
You guys are definitely right. all
Okay.
right? I'm not going to sit here and say Allen Iverson can play every position because he can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is a dream lineup. And
Yeah,
it would
exactly.
be a dream for me to see Allen Iverson surrounded by a bunch of guys that can elevate him even more.
Okay.
I would love to see, I can't think of really any good teammates that Allen Iverson had. I mean, I could count like
Dikembe Mutombo, Eric Snow. That's the end of the list. But Dikembe Mutombo, basically, he
Yeah.
played with him in 2001. But I agree. So, okay, but Allen Iverson and Dwayne Wade kind of do the same thing, except for that Dwayne Wade plays amazing defense. I'd say he's the best shot blocking 2-guard in the history of the league.
That's fair.
But do you think he can play? How would he play along with D Wade?
Well, that's why I said I'd rather him play with Steph.
Okay, so then how is he going to play with Steph?
Well, Steph, he can shoot from anywhere, right? So we could put Steph anywhere we want.
I feel like
Allen
that is
Iverson-
explainable. I feel like that's kind of almost like a Klay Thompson, Steph Curry type thing where if Allen Iverson's playing the 1, okay, Curry, he's going to be on the perimeter. Iverson's
Yeah.
going to take some attention. You give it to Steph. He shoots a 3.
That's exactly
it goes
what I was
in.
thinking.
So
Allen
I
Iverson's
understand
gonna
that
take
Allen
that
Iverson
attention.
playing with
Okay.
Steph Curry.
Yeah. Who's gonna be setting screens for Steph in your lineup?
Tim Duncan.
Yeah, of
Tim
course.
Duncan.
The highly mobile 4 in the history, the highly mobile playmaking 4, Tim Duncan. So Tim Duncan's going to be setting your screens?
I mean, Tim Duncan can. I mean, I could see Hakeem could as well. I mean,
okay.
We got some big boys.
You got
know?
some pick and roll action there.
I suppose so, yeah. Off-screen ball,
What type of
too.
offense are you running?
It's a great question. I don't plan on being the coach. So I'm just putting the
I
lineup
made the
together.
lineup and then I give somebody else.
Exactly.
Okay,
What
I
coach's
understand.
playbook would you like to see this team run?
Well, I've mentioned a lot about, that 2012, that 2013 LeBron and D Wade. So probably just I'd recreate what they did. That's who I want in my lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of your guys' lineups are really good.
Thank you.
But that'll do it here for our dream lineups. You can catch us on our socials at NTTV_sports, and be sure to keep those TVs on as NTTV's nightly news starts here in a couple minutes.